In the earlier days of the internet, Flash games were a playground of creativity. From lighthearted distractions to groundbreaking animations, they defined an era of online culture. But hidden in the shadows of sites like Newgrounds, Addicting Games, and other portals were titles that went far darker. Games that weren't just meant to spook you. They aimed to unsettle, disturb, and linger in your mind long after you close the browser. From haunted houses to cult rituals, to Lovecraftian hopelessness, and even the most shocking depictions of real-world horror, we're looking at some of the darkest Flash games that push the limits of what a simple browser game could be on this trip into the dark tunnel. In 2005, a small Thai developer and graphic designer known as Syntai released a game that would become one of the most infamous Flash-based horror experiences of its era, simply titled The House. It was quite simple, even for its time. You just click points of interest in the rooms, triggering haunting events that progress the story. But The House was different. Let's explore how this seemingly simple horror game still leaves an impression that is remembered by thousands, even 20 years later. The premise was straightforward. You explore an abandoned home where, years earlier, an entire family had died. And playing through each room reveals fragments of their fate. As you progress through the house, the suffering of each of these ghosts is slowly revealed, usually climaxing with a jump scare. The son's head loudly dropping into view, the hanged daughter crashing through the ceiling, the father whose fate is revealed through a portrait with the pull of a trigger, the mother's hand slamming violently against the screen. Simple moments, yet they were perfectly timed to get under your skin. So, what really set The House apart? How did such a simple point-and-click game make such an impression on so many? While this is subjective, there is one thing about The House that many can agree with. The game excelled where horror really matters: its atmosphere. The rooms are small, dark, and suffocating. The sound of your own heartbeat grows louder with every click, ratcheting up the tension as you dig deeper. And the trigger of each event makes the player feel as if they're trespassing on something they were never meant to see. The House became legendary in the early days of online horror, passed around in forums, whispered about by kids in school computer labs, and played by many in the dark of night just looking for a scary experience. It's just further proof that you don't need cutting-edge graphics or complex mechanics to terrify an audience. Sometimes, all it takes is a haunted house, a tragic story, and the courage to face what's waiting beyond that next click. If The House was about dread and atmosphere in a single location, then the Ex Mortis series was about world building, dragging players deeper into an expansive horror that spanned over 5 years. The first game, Ex Mortis, appeared in 2004. Created by Australian developer Ben Leffler, it starts off simple enough. You begin lost in the woods, blood on your hands, with no memory of how you got there. Your only refuge is a crumbling farmhouse and the horrifying discoveries that wait inside. Bloodstained walls, eerie journals, and several dead bodies set the stage for something much darker. Slowly, you uncover hints of the Ex Mortis, an ancient demonic cult older than humanity itself. By the time you finish it and piece it all together, you'll realize this was far more than your average Flash offering. Ex Mortis spread quickly online, being played by hundreds of thousands, and currently enjoying a play count of over 3 million on Newgrounds alone. And then in 2006, Leffler released Ex Mortis 2. Where the first game trapped you in a house, the sequel expanded to an entire ruined world. Cities were overrun, survivors were few, and the Ex Mortis had risen to power. This time, you wandered through a decrepit church and a ranch house where the previous occupants struggled to survive, while piecing together humanity's final days. With sharper art, more puzzles, and deeper lore, it felt like an entire new mythos unfolding in Flash. Together, the first two games showed just how powerful a browser horror experience could be, using silence, slow pacing, and atmosphere to create real unease. They became cult classics, remembered as some of the most iconic Flash horror ever made. Leffler would eventually return with Ex Mortis 3 in 2009 as a paid premium title, where a light version was uploaded to Newgrounds. This installment was by far the largest, and while it didn't quite have the same cultural impact as the first two, it provided closure to the twisted mythology that had haunted eager fans for years. And the Ex Mortis series proved that Flash games didn't have to be quick distractions. They could be full-fledged horror experiences, and for many, they remain unforgettable pieces of early internet legend. In 2005, a simple yet unforgettable Flash horror game appeared on Newgrounds. It was simply titled D-Animator. It was created by Korean developer Bum Lee and directly inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's short story Herbert West, Reanimator. The premise couldn't be more straightforward. You're Herbert West, a lone man in a graveyard, armed only with a revolver. The undead rise from their graves one by one, and it's up to you to put them back down. While the revolver ammo is unlimited, the more powerful shotgun's ammo is not. Reloads are painfully slow, and the zombies never stop coming. There are no cutscenes, no complex mechanics, just you, your gun, and the creeping realization that you can't win. As a matter of fact, there is no win scenario in this game. You simply hold out as long as you can until the endless, shambling hordes overwhelm you. What makes D-Animator stand out is both the dreadful atmosphere of the night sky and the howling wind, coupled with the tension of surviving the wave of zombies. Every bullet matters. The slow, relentless march of the dead creates a suffocating sense of dread that only intensifies across every level. It captures the inevitability and hopelessness at the heart of Lovecraft's stories, distilled into the simplest possible form. But if D-Animator was about inevitability and the despair of cosmic horror, the next game pushed things in an entirely different direction, one that remains infamous to this day. That game was The Ugly. This game pushed into territory that many considered beyond the pale. Released in late 2005, The Ugly became notorious as one of the darkest Flash games ever created. It begins innocently enough. You play as a young girl who comes home to a suspiciously quiet house. A simple search for your parents becomes a scene showcasing the unimaginable horror of a home invasion committed by an escaped lunatic. As you guide the player through the house, you'll find that her father has been decapitated, and her mother lies dying after a brutal assault. It is also a punishing game, where a series of events needs to be triggered in an exact order, with every correct move being one traumatic event after another, and with every single wrong move ending in a vicious death for the player. Unlike most Flash horror titles, which leaned on atmosphere or supernatural elements, The Ugly was rooted in real-world violence, and that's what made it so unsettling, creating a sense of shock that was far more disturbing than entertaining. For many players, The Ugly wasn't so much a game as it was an ordeal, an experience that left them unsettled long after the screen went dark. It spread quickly across Flash portals, whispered about on forums, and even now, 20 years later, it is cited as one of the most disturbing Flash games ever made. Was it art? A cautionary tale, perhaps? Or simply an exercise in pushing boundaries for shock value? Whatever the intent, it carved a reputation that ensures it's placed in the darkest tunnels of Flash history. Thank you for watching, and I sincerely hope you'll join me again on our next trip into the Dark Tunnel.